Good evening. We'll now begin the recording of our regular monthly meeting. For the quorum being present, the meeting was called to order at 6:00 p.m. tonight. We immediately convened an executive session to discuss collective negotiations of PAC, matters of health and safety, current litigation, and employment attendance history of particular employees and students. At this time, I would like to call for a motion and a second to end executive session and return to the open meeting. Motion, Mr. Romanero, second, Mrs. Mitchell. All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed? Motion carried. And we need a motion to, we
Yes.
reconvened. We're
Yeah.
good. So pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Berry?
Here.
Ms. Boswell Davies?
Here.
Ms. Graves?
Here.
Mr. Hamilton?
Here.
Ms. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Peters?
Here.
Mr. Webanero?
Here.
Okay. Motion to approve the agenda. Motion. Motion, Mrs. Mitchell.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hamilton. All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed? Motion carried. Motion to approve the minutes of the November 14th regular board meeting as written and or corrected. Motion. Motion, Mrs. Mitchell. Second, Mrs. Boswell Davies. All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed? Motion carried. Okay, public comment. I didn't have anything on approved comments, and we have no one signed up for public comments. Okay. But I do want, before we get into the superintendent's report, which there's Mr. Storms could not be here tonight, so Shannon Boy is going to do the superintendent's report. I want to thank all of the students, the staff, and the community, the parents, for supporting our students with the concerts that happened. Last night was standing room only, and it was just amazing to watch the students and how well they do, but I know it takes an awful lot with the staff and the parent support. But not only that, the drama club last weekend, the weekend before, I can't remember now, I lose track of time, and all of our sports, our athletes, our coaches, and the parents, again, supporting them for our fall season, a fantastic season. Our students do very well with that. As I said, it's great work on the part of everybody. Our community comes and supports us, and when you see something like what happened last night with standing room only, it's just amazing. And then too, the Lions Club with their turkey trot, it was phenomenal. I understand it was a record number of people there. And the Lions Club did send a thank you to the members of the Honor Society. I won't read all the names because I'll probably mix some of them up, but for the members of our Honor Society for going and helping register and pass out runner's bibs at the trot, and the bearing all the cold and getting up early on Thanksgiving morning. So they said it went smoothly with the help of our Honor Society. And thank you to the class of 2025. We were able to take an ornament tonight, so thank you very much. We have our ornaments that we'll be able to remember that by. And I think they were at their craft fair. It was phenomenal. I hope they do another craft fair next year. It was really beautiful. It brought a lot of people into the school, again, to see our school and how it is, because people will say, oh, I don't remember that being here when I went to school. I don't remember that being here when I went to school. So thank you to all for supporting us and making it prove right. So, Mrs. Shannon Boy.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Sure, I'm fine. I'm not going to say much.
We're going to have board members moving in and out because they do have students in the concert. And admin. Admin too, yep.
So Kara Bose is going to discuss our capital project, funding and electric buses, and CBS is currently working on an impact study for the whole North Country region for all the schools, because this is something that everybody's going through. So they're starting that. Kara?
Yep. And just another note on electric buses is we are participating in a fleet electrification study through RG&E, which is the parent company of NYSEG. We have a meeting once a month, and our meeting today confirmed that NYSEG has secured funding to perform a full charging evaluation for our district. So the results of that will be interesting, and we will keep everyone posted. And I'm also going to introduce Mr. Krista Carlo from Frederick P. Dunnigan. He is our financial advisor. He's here to talk to you today about our proposed capital project planning. You have the presentation in front of you as the board. He will talk to you about what our timeline looks like and what our financial capacity is for a future capital project. Yep.
Great, thank you for that introduction. Again, my name is Chris DiCarlo. I'm the district's municipal advisor for Bernard Donnigan Incorporated. So what I'm here this evening to do is, effectively what I'd like to do is give you a kind of a capital project 101 this evening, give you a look of where you're at currently with your existing local share for your previously authorized capital project, and show you some opportunities that you have for the near future for some votes, whether it's utilizing a drop-off that you have in the local share coming up in a handful of years, or getting some work done in between before that drop-off. So if I'm going too fast or too slow, please feel free to stop me at any point in time. But we'll start on, starting on page 2 of the report, or page 3 of your report, because I have a table of contents there. But what this is for you is a look at your building debt for all of your previously authorized capital projects that are still outstanding, that you have debt service remaining on. So this page reads from the left to the right. So you have all of your principal and interest on all of your issued bonds in columns A and B, and your total debt service in column C. In column D, you can see the associated building aid that's coming back in on those projects. So effectively what our goal is to try to line up your flow of building aid with your debt service payments so that you don't have any mismatches in your local share or what's hitting the levy. So you can see over in column F on the far right of the page there, your local share, or what is actually hitting the tax levy, is between about $85,000 and $90,000 per year. And so you can see that that's staying nice and flat all the way out until 2032, where there's a significant drop-off in your local share. Any questions on the debt service page there? So graphically, when we take a look at that, you can see we're holding steady at the black line going down the middle of the page there. And out in 2032, where that drop-off is, that's effectively an opportunity for the district. If you have capital project needs and the timing lines up, that can be an opportunity for you to take advantage of that drop-off and fill in with a capital project. And if we could stay within the black line with the local share for the proposed project, then it would be a no additional tax impact project, so it would be no more taxes than what the community is currently paying. So it's really focusing in on the timing of where the drop-off is. With a drop-off in 32, you're really looking at a vote a little bit further out. In 2029 would be kind of the ideal time frame for that type of vote. That may be too far out for you for your needs. So what I have tonight is some scenarios for you to look at some projects that maybe can be done in the meantime at no addition or no tax impact to the community. So we'll run through some different scenarios of utilizing your capital reserve, and one scenario possibly using some of your debt service funds to offset some impact for those projects. So scenarios 1 through 4, 1 through 3 will be utilizing capital reserve, and scenario 4 will be utilizing some debt service fund to create a drop-off earlier on in your local share. All of them are working around the December 2024 vote. That date has not been chosen. That's a date that can slide given that these are no tax impact projects. We're just setting the parameters here with a vote date in December 24, just so we can run the model to give you an idea of what size project you could accomplish given the amount of capital reserves that you have and given what your local share drop-off is for a future project. But assuming a December 2024 vote, again, this page reads from the left to the right. So we would have our voter referendum flag in December of 24. So just for reference there, leading up to that, the board would be taking action on a project for December 24 vote, typically in October of 24. You'd be adopting your seeker resolution, you're wording the proposition, and calling for the special election in December. And then leading up to that is all of the planning that takes place both with our office in determining what size project you can do, and with your architect to develop what type of scope is needed, and what your needs and maybe what some of your wants are. Going from the right of that December 24 flag, we got maybe 5 to 6 months for your architect to design the project. maybe another 5 to 6 months after that, after it being submitted to the state where you receive CSD approval. And that's the point in time in which you can go out and bid and award contracts and start getting shovels in the ground, start doing that work that the voters approved for you. Again, with the construction potentially starting in the 26 timeframe, we're assuming that maybe your first borrowing might be in June of 26 on a bond anticipation note. And then if everything's going well with the project and is wrapping up nicely, we might convert to permanent financing serial bonds in June of 27. These scenarios, 1 through 4, all assume closeouts, final cost reports, and certificates of substantial completion forms being filed by December 27. Both of those forms need to be filed for building aid to flow for your project. So this is a very generic look at how a typical project works in New York State. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of context in terms of, if you're completing a project in 28, there's a lot of years leading up to that where there's a lot of steps that have to take place. Scenario 1 and 1 through 3 are going to be utilizing different amounts of your capital reserve and determining how much capital reserve contribution can we leverage our building aid back with, which will result in a larger project and no tax impact. So in the upper left-hand corner, very small font, I apologize for that, but we've effectively done is laid out those same dates that are on the planning timeline that we just went over. And then also included on there is your building aid ratio, so 88%. So every dollar that we spend on a voter-approved capital project, the state will reimburse us 88 cents back on that dollar. So we need to make some assumptions in our analysis for how much of the project we think will be eligible for aid. And so then in these scenarios, we assume that the project is fully aidable. So everything is an aid eligible cost and it's fitting within your maximum cost allowances, which I'll go over later in the report and the analysis here. We're backing off a 5% cushion just because it's not uncommon for the state to find something in your project that might be ineligible for aid. So we're just building in a little bit of conservatism there. So again, reading from left to right on this page, the capital reserve contribution in column B, $500,000, is effectively your down payment on the project. What we're able to do is leverage that $500,000 with the building aid we're getting back, and we're able to structure the principal and interest payments in column C and E and your debt service in column F in alignment with the amount of building aid that you're going to receive back on that size project. So if you focus in over on column J, there is no local share for that project. So the use of $500,000 of capital reserve dollars leverages about a $2.5, $2.6 million project for you, given that that's all aidable work. Any questions on the maturity schedule for scenario 1? So what we do on the next page is just to show you layering in with your existing building local share from column A. We layer in the maturity schedule for the $2.5 million project, and you're really going to see no change over in column H, given that it's a no tax impact project. So again, your drop off in the future is still out in fiscal year 32, even with you getting some work done in that May of 24, or sorry, the December 24 vote time frame. And then graphically, this is going to look very similar to the existing local share chart that we went over earlier. Given that this is a no tax impact project, it's really going to have no impact on your bar charts there for your local share that you have. Scenario 2 doubles the amount of capital reserve contribution. And you're going to be able to start to see that you can start to take these numbers and extrapolate them out. So if you have 500,000, a million, 1.5 million, the project size, given that the variables stay the same, that the project is aid eligible, they should really align with the amount of capital reserve that you're contributing. So you can see that with $1 million being contributed, column J is still no tax impact, but we're able to leverage $5,175,000 of a capital project. So we're using those the capital reserve dollars, a down payment on the project, to leverage our building aid to get some additional work done at no tax impact. And then the charts are going to look the same for scenario 2, and then with your bar chart, again, it's going to look exactly the same in all these scenarios because it's no tax impact, there's no change on the levy. And then again, scenario 3, bumping up the capital reserve contribution from $1 million to 1.5, just showing you the relationship that as each $500,000 additional that you contribute, you're leveraging about another $2.5 million of capital project work. So if you're able to save some additional dollars and leverage them against the capital project, that project size will just continue to grow, given that it's meeting the same parameters and same variables with the assumptions that we're using here. And then the charts are going to look again exactly the same in these scenarios for 1 through 3, given that those are all no tax impact projects, utilizing your capital reserve dollars that you may have available. Scenario 4 is a little bit different of a scenario, a little bit different of a concept. We took your local share chart, and in 2028, you can see in column E, we're showing the use of a debt service offset. So what that is we're using some of your debt service fund that you have available from previous authorizations, and we're building that into the budget as an offset to your debt service payments that you have in columns A and B. So you can see in 27, from 27 to 28, we're creating a drop-off for an opportunity for you to build in a project with that drop-off. So taking advantage of the drop in the local share from about $90,000 to negative $412,000. So just remember that in the change column there, that $500,000 drop-off, because that's going to be significant when we jump into the maturity schedule for this project. But again, graphically, what that would look like is that you would have a drop-off in the 28 fiscal year that we could potentially take advantage of and build in some capital project financing some dollars into that fiscal year. So this maturity schedule has no capital reserve contribution, but you can see over in column J, we're able to absorb about that $500,000 of local share. So by being able to absorb that $500,000 payments in fiscal year 28, we're able to leverage some of those dollars that are coming back in building aid and create a little bit larger of a project for you by leveraging that building aid that's coming back in. So it's a little bit different of a mechanism to use if you have the needs and you want to use that debt service fund. Really, when you have a debt service fund, the intention should be that you should use it on the debt from which it was issued from. So having a plan in place for it would be good for if your auditor's in here saying you might have to have a plan for your use of debt service fund. This might be a good opportunity for you if the needs are there for a capital project given this time frame. And then the next slides are going to look again very similar since we're building in and trying to keep your local share level there. Still the same drop off out in 2032. And then since I know that was a lot of information really quickly, we figured it'd be nice to put together a nice summary page for you for these December 24 no tax impact scenarios. So again, 1 through 3, really focusing on the middle of the page, the amount of capital reserve contribution that's being contributed. And then up at the top under the voter authorizations, how much project you can leverage with no tax impact. So 1 through 3, capital reserve contribution, no tax impact. Scenario 4, using some debt service fund to create a project at no tax impact. So the nice thing about these scenarios is then these could also be stacked on top of each other. So if you wanted to use some of the debt service fund with scenario 1, 2, or 3, you could effectively add them on top of each other. And given that the variables stay the same, you could do a project. Instead of 2.5 million, you could add the 2.3 to it, for example. And again, these scenarios 1 through 3 are no tax impact projects, so they're going to be, just keep these values in mind as we focus in on the drop-off for the 2029 vote as well, because if you have some capital reserve available for those projects, that can grow the size of that project for you as well. Any questions so far?
Yeah, sorry. In the scenario 4, you said that we could use $500,000 from our debt service fund, but scenarios 1 through 3 also in the first year have an outline of debt service offsets. So where's the monies for debt service offsets?
Yep. So what we've done in each of these scenarios, and you'll see on the page here, is we've established a budget for you for each of these scenarios, what your construction and incidental expenses will be. Incidental costs being architect fees, construction manager fees, our fees, bond counsel. We've also built in what's called a DASNY fee. There's 2 ways that we can issue debt as a New York State school district. We can either issue our bonds on our own as a public market bond through Wall Street, or we can issue our financing through the Dorm Authority of the State of New York. And the DASNY option is really the option that we go when interest rates are rising. Because what DASNY will do is they will override our state assumed rates, the rate that we're being reimbursed our building aid at. And let's say our reimbursement rate from the state is 4%, but bond rates are 7%. DASNY will override that 4% reimbursement to a matching rate to whatever we bond at. So that minimizes the local share. So that's what the DASNY is. The offset that you're talking about is capitalized interest. So what, if we go back to, I don't know if I can go back in here.
Down.
Yeah. If we go back to one of our maturity schedules here, you can see that building aid won't start flowing in the first year, but you may have an interest expense due on a borrowing. So that money's got to come from somewhere. That money can either be offset by use of debt service funds to build in that opportunity for that, or we can use borrowed proceeds or capitalize that interest expense. So you can see we are offsetting the interest payment in year one with the use of some of the project budget proceeds. So that in year one, where there's no building aid flowing, it's still no tax impact. If we didn't have the offset there, you'd have $116,000 hitting the levy in fiscal year 27, which would be an impact to taxpayers or an impact on your levy. So capitalized interest is a mechanism that's used to offset in years in which building aid is not flowing. The state aid rules are that building aid cannot commence until at least 18 months after approval. So there's always a little bit of a gap from when building aid starts flowing to when we might have a payment due to the bank on a borrowing. So if you remember back to earlier in the report, we focused in on a drop-off in your local share in fiscal year 32. So with that drop-off, the timing of that, we have to work back 2 or 3 years before then. So when a vote, the timing of that vote might make sense given when the timing for approvals from the state and when we might have debt service to fill in that drop-off. So with a drop-off in the 31-32 year, you can see we're into the serial bond financing at that point. So backing up from there, the ideal time frame to vote for a project with that drop-off would be around, between December of 28 to even as far out as December 30, just so you have a voter-approved project to build in local share or debt service in 31-32 to take advantage of that drop-off. So what we've used here is May of 29. That gives you a nice relaxed timeline up to that drop-off. So similar to the December 24 vote, you have the May 29 voter referendum flag on the left-hand side of the page, and then this document reads similar to the December 24 vote. Maybe it's 5 to 6 months for your the architect to design the project, 6 to 7 months to get it submitted to state and approved, and then you're into construction in the 2030 calendar year, with our borrowings taking place in 30, 31, and maybe turning into permanent financing serial bonds in 31, 32. So that's the timing for the drop-off out into the future. So given that drop-off, what we've run is a $12.2 million project, almost $12.3 million project. And if you remember back to the bar charts earlier on in the report, in 32, we had a drop-off that we could absorb some local share. So this scenario assumes no capital reserve. We have our principal payments and our interest structured in column C and E, and our associated building aid coming back in column G. So you can see over in column J, we're absorbing some local share in years 1 through 5. But we have the drop-off to fit it in. So when we blend that together even with one of the December 24 votes, your local share, and blending in the May of 29 vote, over in the far right column, we're staying flat out at that $85,000 to $90,000 level. And again, with the way that this is structured, that would give you another drop-off in fiscal year 36. So what this can start to do is start to build that inertia to get you to the point where you're having these drop-offs every 5 years or so to get your capital project work, your needs accomplished with your capital projects. Any questions on that scenario?
How does that work with inflation? I mean, we're talking about a long time out. I mean, are we talking straight dollars at this point, or is it adjusted for that too?
So,
I mean, it's going to be worth a lot less, 12 years from now, right?
That's potentially the amount of work you can get done. What could be less if the inflation continues at the pace that you're going. So that's the size project given the variables that we're using. We're using 6% for bonds, 5% for notes. Okay. In today's market, you'd probably be around a 4% for a note or a bond. We've seen some stability over the last few months here with note and bond rates. It was the Wild West for a little while there, where we had districts issuing notes, bond anticipation notes at 2-3 years ago at 0.5%, and then a year later we're issuing at 4.5%. So it's historically, I've never in my career seen rates go up that quickly, but we have seen some stability. So we've built in conservative rates here. The size of the project is what it is given the variables. But if you know you're going to have more needs than what you're able to accomplish with that size project, this will give you an opportunity to build in up some capital reserve dollars potentially to leverage more project. Or again, if none of these scenarios fit the model or the needs that you have, at a certain point you might need to consider whether or not a tax impact project is needed to accomplish all of your needs for your facilities. And again, what I like about these models here that we've run tonight is if you take the 12,280,000 project that fits into the drop-off, and going back to the each of these scenarios, you have $500,000 of capital reserve for that May of 29 vote. You can add 2.5 million to that size project. If you have $1 million, you can add 5.1 to it. So given that the project stays as aidable as we're assuming here, the project can be leveraged with your capital reserve further out for that May of 29 drop-off vote as well. In the back of the report, we've included just the history of your building aid ratios. When the voters approve a capital project, you lock into the formula. The ratio can change on any given year. Yours does not typically. You've been nice and steady at this 88% all the way back to 2009-10. So there's consistency there with your ratio, which is nice. Makes it easier for planning. But we do have some districts that their ratio can change on a given year. But you lock into the formula that we are currently in, which is what's called the Build For formula. So it's a little bit of a technical term, but that's what you would lock into once the voters approve the capital project. And then in the middle of the page in the white text boxes, we just included for some historical background, some of your previous capital votes and the yes, no's that were associated with each of those. And then the last page that I have for you is a look at your maximum cost allowances. So being that we're an 88% building aid ratio district, maximizing that aid is very important. So we always need to be mindful of our max cost allowances that the state assigns. So what that essentially is that the state assigns a maximum rated capacity or amount that they'll pay you building aid for each building that you have student occupancy in. So every student occupied building in New York State has a set maximum cost allowance. It fluctuates on a monthly basis based on construction cost index and a regional cost factor. However, how this works is for under column A, you can see under the construction, or on the top half of the page, the 12.9 million. What that means is you can spend $20 million on a construction project. The state's only going to aid us at our 88% reimbursement rate up to the 12.9 million. So on top of that, we have to back out any projects that have received approval from the state in the last 5 years. So as of today, when we back out your projects that have been approved by the state, you have about 9.7 million to work with for construction of the elementary school, and about 1.4 million of incidental aid ceiling to work with at the elementary school. We always have to be mindful of the incidental numbers because that's not just soft costs like architect, construction manager, that also includes site work. So anything that's 5 feet or further outside of your building, unfortunately gets reported under that category by the state. So if you're looking at parking lots or sidewalks or turf fields, any of that work, that needs to get reported under that bucket down below, the incidental bucket. Given the timeline for when these projects may be, we've included the reset date in the middle of the page. That's when those values fall out of the look back and you get those to work with your aid ceiling again as well. So the high school under column B, as of today, 26.5 million, very healthy construction aid ceiling, and incidentals, 4 million, a little over $4 million to work with on the incidental aid ceiling side. Bus garage, there's not student occupancy in there, so the state's not giving you a rated capacity. They'll generally aid you dollar for dollar at your aid ratio for work that you're doing to maintain the integrity of that building. So any HVAC, electrical, windows, all that kind of stuff is typically aided at your building aid ratio, the 88%. I think the term that's floated around the state is the garage mahal. They're just not looking for to build that type of project. So as long as it's within reason and it meets the needs of your fleet, they'll aid you for that type of work at that building.
Any of the outside fields and so on, they go under specific buildings?
So if you're contiguous campus,
Yes.
there's flexibility and there could be opportunities. What we would do is we'd work with your architect and maybe even your project manager at the state to see if there was a way to allocate a portion of that work to maybe shift some dollars just to maximize the aid that's coming back in for the district. And again, The report that we went over this evening, I somewhat purposely used some December and May votes. You don't always have to vote in May with the budget vote. We do have a lot of districts that vote in December, or really any time, but the two most popular times of the year are December and May. What I would encourage you to do is, when you're speaking with your architect, talk to them about some of the advantages. Maybe the type of work that you're doing might make more sense for you to get started a little bit earlier with a vote in December, and that might be able to get you out the gates a little bit sooner with the lead time and some of the purchase of those items. So that might be something to consider. I know our office, me personally, I have 8 districts voting this week that I advise in New York State. I think our office probably has 15 or 16 that are going out to vote this week or in December. So it's become a more common time frame to vote. So we just wanted to kind of put that little bit of information out there for you as well. And time it nicely with holiday concerts.
Christmas and
Yeah.
giving feeling.
Yeah. So I went over a lot of information really quickly. Well, I thought quickly, but anybody have any questions at this time?
Yes, it is.
Well, and I think the point of this is, as you know, we received our building condition survey. So that gave us areas of interest for a future capital project. So the goal with this presentation was to show you what we had the financial capacity for without a tax impact. And then hopefully next month, we'll be able to review the results of the building condition survey and use this information, that information, and the estimates of the cost to address the certain areas of priority to establish where we want to go in terms of the project.
Right, because this is all previous ones.
Yep,
We
and so
haven't seen,
yep.
we haven't seen the building condition plan.
Correct, and so there's another report that we
Yep.
give you that just kind of shows you what our previous projects
Right.
were and what we were able to accomplish
Mhm.
with that amount of money, to put it into perspective. So, thank you very much.
You're welcome. If
Thank
any other
Thank you.
questions come up, please feel free to reach out to us or have to answer any questions that come up later on. Once you digest the
Thank you.
information.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. We don't have to do anything more on electric buses and the capital project. Lots to think about. Mr. Marino.
All right, so first off, I want to start out December. Just wish you all Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. You know, it's a busy time of the season, and I'm sure you all probably have better things to be doing than sitting in a meeting with everything coming up. So I won't be long. I just want to take an opportunity reading through the agenda. We've had some conversation with Mr. Storms and Mrs. Pitcher-Bouye about the solar eclipse, so to see that on the agenda, that seems to be a very topic that many people in the school are passionate about. So I'm glad to see that we're not finally, because we've had discussions, but to see that it's possibly going to be addressed and maybe, I don't want to say rectified, because at the time when we were discussing the calendar last year, it wasn't really on our, wasn't really on the radar, but it's come up quick. So, so other than that, I know there's been some good things going on between PAT and the district. I'm not going to go into too many details, but I know we've had a non-APPR committee that's been talking with the district about creating an evaluation system for our non-APPR members, that people that don't fall under the APPR, and my understanding is that has gone very well, and they're getting close to wrapping that up. So hopefully that's something we'll be able to move forward with in the near future. And other than that, I come up here every month and tell you that things are going well. I still, the positive relationships we have with the district and the administrators continue to help us be proactive and really not give me much to talk about up here, so that's a good thing.
It is.
So,
Thank you.
all right. And I am going to sneak out to catch the concert fans.
Okay, thank
We'll
you.
be back.
Okay, we're on to the district reports and testing results.
So we're going to take a few minutes to provide you with a toe dip of our district data for our New York State 3 through 8 testing in ELA, math, and science, and also our Regents exams. But just some considerations for you to think about when you see the numbers. We believe that our students are more than a test score. We value looking at the whole child. Our 3 through 8 participation is increasing, but it's not 100% yet, and because they're not required, right? So Regents exams are a graduation requirement, so that's why all of our students participate. We feel that COVID is still having an impact on our students, on their academics and their mental health. Computer-based testing versus paper-based testing. So a lot of our tests are now computer-based, and that requires a whole different skill set. So even reading comprehension is very different online. Computation for math is very different when you're doing that on a computer. I don't think I've ever really taken any tests like that. So, and then all of our data is really just information for us. So that we don't really feel like there's any such thing as bad data. It's all good data, and there's always room for improvement. So I'm going to briefly go over intermediates course for Ms. Sexton. She's out. So on the top half of the page, you'll see that this is the CBS region, and it gives you a look all the way back to 2017. And at the bottom is our district in Peru. So this is ELA. So you can see that we're just going to kind of look at Peru. So you can see that this year we had 38.9% proficient in grade 3. 48 in grade 4, and in 5th grade, 30%. So you can see the difference from last year. There's an increase in all areas. But noting, what's going on here in 4th grade? There's quite a jump in 4th grade, so we're curious about that. Any questions about that?
One thing to point out to people too
Yeah.
is you probably should ignore 2021 results when you're looking at this, because it was the 2019 test that they gave in 2021, and I don't think they even sent out many results and so on.
The participation rates were really,
Right.
really skewed that year.
Right.
This is just another view. It's showing our proficiency rate. Still probably not where we'd like to be, but gives us something to focus on. Opportunity for growth for sure. We're comparable to the region. And then in math. So CBS up at the top, the whole region. And I think this is even a little bit changed down. Terry Gray was here this afternoon, and she told us that another district just added to the coaster, so those numbers are all changed down. So, but in our math, grade 3, 43%, an increase of, from last year, 34%, 32 to 51 for grade 4, so another big jump for grade 4, and grade 5 from 36 to 44%. Increase in grades 3 through 5 in ELA and math. Just another view for 3 through 5. Still opportunity for growth for sure. Again, and the participation rates are pretty high. I mean, grade 5 is a little bit lower. Our strengths are we've increased in ELA and math in all grade levels, and noting that grade 4 jump, there's 20% in ELA, 19% in math, and that exceeded the CBS region. And then opportunity for growth is a goal to increase 5 to 10% in all grade levels. And subgroups, so we want to target those subgroups too. They break out in students with disabilities, different poverty rates, all of that. So, Mr. Manchester.
Right here, up, down?
Down.
So you're going to see very similar charts that you just saw for the 3 through 5 data, starting with ELA for grades 6 through 8, again comparing on the left how the region did, and on the right how the Peru Middle School did. Similar, obviously we'd like to move that big block of orange over to the right, getting those students from non-proficient to proficient, but the data is fairly similar to what the area had as a region, as a CBS region. when you look at the heat map, if you will, again, the top is the CBS, the bottom is Peru. Again, just looking at the trends, they're very similar. As far as the movement, the concern is 7th grade did drop about 9% as far as the amount of proficiency, the similar number with 6th grade. So we lost some proficiency points as far as those two grades, but we did make gains in 8th grade here. When you look at math, again, just from this point of view, very similar to what we've already been looking at, but again, similar to the region. When we look at the heat map, if you will, the one thing I would like to point out is the jump that grade 8 made. You look down here at the bottom row, in 2022, we only had 10% of our 8th grade students reach proficiency, and it jumped to 42.57, so that was a very significant jump. Also gains made in 6th. 7th grade did make some gains, but obviously we'd like to see that number higher. But overall, pleased with some of the math growth that we saw just from 2022 to 2023. In science, just noting that, again, when we're looking at this graph, it's similar. We would have liked to have seen a little bit more mastery in the sense that we had a higher percentage of students that were proficient in the grade, but this is level 3. We didn't have any students reach level 4. And when you look at the heat map, the trend, at least compared to the district, to our district, is very similar as far as how the percentages moved depending on the year. Again, a little bit of a fall off last year because we were very close in 2022, but then dropped about 8 percentage points from last year. The other thing to note is that the test is going to change for science. That's going to be a brand new test, so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts some of these numbers in the upcoming testing calendar. So areas of strength and growth, like I said before, we're making progress in moving students to proficiency in math, especially building wide. Like I said, where I pointed out the significant gains in our Math 8 cohort. And then areas of growth, we want to use the upcoming data meetings that actually we had our first one in math that Terry Calabrese Gray met with our math department to help identify some of those standards where students struggled. And then use that information to provide some additional practice and modeling in the course of our instruction leading up to that. That's still authentic. We don't want to teach the test, but at least knowing that the standards are something that we're going to teach anyway, identify those standards that we were weakening last year.
Thank you.
Hello, off to Regents exams. I think one thing that I can say the high school doesn't have as a significant challenge as the other grade levels is the fact that you have to take at least 5 of these right now, or 4 depending on your pathway, to get through high school. It's not a choice. So we don't have that challenge. Last year we highlighted the efforts of the ELA department. If you recall, very, very good results. No surprise they had very good results again. So I decided to highlight somebody else. Algebra 2. If you look at our results over here, they're very strong compared to the region, the other 16 schools in the region. And you'll notice with our number of students who took the exam across all exams, we're a significant amount of the larger piece of the data. So Mr. Chen and Mr. Armstrong deserve a little shout out here. And these represent one student, 4.76%.
Wow.
And just to highlight the efforts over the years for Algebra 2, highlighting here versus CBES of a proficiency rate of 75%, 90.48%. All right, moving on to living environment. I thought that this was, a highlight to make as you look again. Our number compared to the students who took the exam, 176. That was a result of that high number is a result of kind of the first initiative Mr. Batten and I did together in moving living environment from 10th grade down to 9th grade, and had this bubble of students come up, and that was the result of that, is 176 kids. Typically it's going to be around 130, 140. So not above the average in the area, but considering 1/5 to 1/6 of the data, the students and the teachers did pretty well in that area. And that, I wanted to highlight this because it was a significant bump in our school, in the high school, to get the kids to be more successful on an easier exam earlier and kind of check a box, so to speak. I don't want to speak like that, I don't want to demean the test, but these tests can really stress kids out when it comes to graduation and families. All right, I thought this was just funny. You'll notice Peru, nice and green. 2 kids took the physics exam, and it's not I don't know if it's a problem, I don't know what it is, but really the seniors have figured it out who take physics. I really don't have to do this, and the 2 who did show up, the one girl said, I said, wow, you're pretty dedicated. She said, my parents made me, and the kid sitting in the back yells, same, across the gym. So that was just comical. And then kind of leave with an area for growth of us in global history and geography. As a former teacher here, we can highlight some of these areas. I can say that this probably isn't a content global studies issue. Used to teach with Mr. Hamilton, and I think he can probably agree this is going to be more of a literacy issue that we as a school, I think, are taking a market, with Mr. Bouye and Mr. Storms taking a market approach in trying to improve. And I'd say this would be our area of improvement, and I think that we would, we really can expand our growth at all of the exams with that effort in literacy. Again, just kind of that heat map sort of thing. And you see those numbers again, you look at 2019, that was the transition exam. This whole ordeal in 2019, we had some students take the transition, we had some students take the global history. But you'll notice, even despite probably an area of growth, we're still hitting proficiency for a vast majority of our students. And I believe that's Ms. Pitcher-Bouye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions about that? Sorry.
So what's next for us? So as Mr. Manchester said, Terry Calabrese-Gray she's back at WOCIS, and she is doing some data meetings for us with our departments, with our grade levels, and she will drill down into the data, looking at what standards, what were our strengths, what standards were we really proficient in, and which ones are we falling short, to determine what strategies and skills we need to use to strengthen our Tier 1 instruction and also our interventions. We also have a MTSS this summer. We went through an MTSS training, which is multi-tiered systems of support, so looking at the whole child. And we have a training for our core data team in January with Wayne Finger Lakes. Our WOCIS doesn't offer this, so we have to shop elsewhere sometimes. But they're going to help us align our data systems and protocols and really help us align so that we're having data meetings more frequently and really reviewing that so that it's constantly happening. We've established a district literacy team, and we had our first meeting about 2 weeks ago. And New York State Education Department is releasing some new literacy briefs next in January. We just learned that the other day. So we'll be doing some training on that. And then we have a student database system that we're purchasing called Panorama, and it's like a whole student dashboard so that we can get district reports on the whole child, on attendance, on behavior, on academics, on interventions, and they'll all be at one place. So it'll be really user-friendly for teachers, for administrators, and the entire district. So, any questions?
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I have children throughout the schools, and I had one of my middle school children. I want to say he was kind of forced to take one of the state exams last year. I questioned him when he said to me, if he didn't take the state exam, his teacher was going to make them take a final exam. So if they took the state exam, they took it, there was no grade at all. Obviously, they didn't have the results back yet. But if they did not take the state exam, then they were being made to take a final exam, which then would be averaged into their grade, and it'd be a cumulative exam. And I questioned the teacher about it, and she said, yes, that wouldn't be. And I really felt that he was made to take it, you know, like, is that appropriate? Is that fair for the teachers to say, if you don't take the state test, then you're gonna take a final test that's gonna be averaged into your grade. But if you take the state test, then it won't be averaged into your grade. Does that make sense?
What grade?
7th grade last year.
Oh. So
I should have pushed it a little more last year, but I didn't. But with upcoming more children, that, you know, like that was a concern as a parent.
Well, I think that those are some conversations that you have. Like, if you don't want your child to participate, that's your choice, but you have to submit that letter ahead of time. And if you don't, then they sit for the exam. It's kind
And there has to be some kind of a cumulative assessment of some sort for the students. Yeah. I don't know, you'd have to get very specific and go and see Mr. Manchester.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
That was just one of my concerns. Like, it's the only time my children have ever experienced any of that.
I think
I've experienced.
Right, and I think what parents don't understand, and students, this is the state exams are an assessment of the programs, of the curriculums, where we can meet the needs and better what we're doing for proficiency levels. That's the biggest result of taking a state exam. You know, not to punish the child or anything, but where do we have gaps? Where do we need to fill in those gaps? And that's the whole purpose of our state exam. So I know that, you know, over the years there's been, you know, lots of different groups that say, you know, I don't want my kid taking that exam because there's pressure and so on. But I think teachers have changed their attitude toward the exams and saying, this is really an assessment of what we're doing in our school versus an assessment of you in particular. Of course, when we do see the results of the proficiency or the, you know, mastery or whatever, it's always nice to take a look at those pieces. But it really shows us where our gaps are in our curriculum and where we need to address those gaps to be more, you know, make our students more ready for the global world. So if there's something very specific, I'd say go right directly to Mr. Manchester. Always go chain of command, start at the source and check it. Anything else? I think, you know, overall, we're seeing some improvement and so on. And as I said, anybody looking at those charts that are in our links, don't look at 2021. It wasn't anything, really. And there weren't even any Regents exams. So, on to consent agenda. We have 12A through G. Motion? Motion, Mr. Webanero.
Second.
Second, Mr. Peters. Any discussion on any of them? All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed? Motion carried. 13A through H. Have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Peters.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hamilton. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. 13A through H. Have a motion?
We just did that one.
Yeah.
Did I skip 14?
14.
We're on 14.
We did 12 and
13.
We just did
We're on-
Yeah.
You said 13 twice.
I did, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, 13A through H is done.
Yes.
14.
14. I'm trying to get this so people go back into the concept. 14A through E.
So moved.
Move.
Second, Mrs. Graves. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed? Motion carried. 15. Anybody with any comments? Okay. New business. Receive the food truck vendor. We're just receiving it. There's no specific names in it, but it was suggested that we have a protocol and an agreement to have the food truck, as with any other vendor, sign an agreement so that when a food truck, and this goes with vendors, a vendor has to give something back to the district, has to benefit the students. Therefore, we have to have some kind of an agreement with the food trucks. It can't be all profit for theirs, there has to be some benefit to the students. You know, let's take a typical Lions Club. Lions Club, we forego the charges and we help them out in two things, because they come in and do all of our eye exams in primary school with different students, and help with the eye classes. So it's one of those things, what can we benefit students from? If there's anything on that form that anyone saw, it looked like it was quite complete.
Good to have it.
Yeah, yes. Legally, they said we should have it. Okay, discuss and determine the action related to April 8th, 2024.
Okay, there's a big eclipse coming, not sure if you heard about it.
Well, we'll wait until we have some kind of an action, and then we'll have a motion. No, that's okay. So, a little discussion on that.
Yes, so we are proposing that we swap out our March 15th Staff Development Parent-Teacher Conference Day to April 8th. So we wouldn't be in session on April 8th with students, but staff would be here from 7 to 2, so that they would be able to get out before the eclipse. And we would have some lessons prepared and events leading up to the eclipse, so that there would be some pre-teaching for students and families, and we would be getting some classes for the whole entire district, so that they would have that eyewear when they're at home watching the eclipse. So,
you have a motion?
So the motion is to
Move
Ms.
March
Berry,
15th
it would,
to,
well, actually, you would just be adopting a revised 23-24 academic calendar.
down to March 15th, moved to April 8th.
yes.
Yeah.
so moved.
Mr. Webanero? Second, Boswell Davies. Any discussion?
I mean, I think it's worth calling out context for folks. Like,
Yes.
It would, like, all the kids in school, why not do the eclipse at school? Well, it's not happening during school hours, right? It's happening after school hours. It's happening when school is being dismissed. It's happening when people are getting out of work. And so it's happening also when we're expecting international audience to kind of descend on this line across the country. And so the conversation is, it's really not a time for us to be trying to get kids home from school in time for the event. So let's lead up to that event, get them ready for it. Everyone can be safely home for it, including hopefully faculty and staff. Right. Great and enjoy this event.
So we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we're in that line, and we don't know what's going to happen. Some people may start looking and say, wow, look at that 22B. That might be a place where I can pull over and take a look at it. If anybody's been down to someplace like NASA or one of those rocket launchings, I'll tell you what, you can't get through anything, and it takes hours to get there, and you may be turned away when you get to the gate. The same sort of thing happens with this. I mean, we haven't had anything in our lifetimes, but I can remember having a partial one and going out with the kids with the little boxes and things like that. So if we do all the preparation prior to our vacation starts on March 29th and ends on April 7th, and then have that staff development parent conference time, so that people, in between that 2-something and 3-something, when there's the partial, but only that less than 5 minutes, hopefully people have time to be able to get home and not have the traffic problems. So that's where we are. We're trying to look at it as safe, because I know New York State Education Department is saying, and many other places are saying, don't have anything in session. You know, we're not sure what the impact will be on our small community, but it might be. So be safe rather than sorry. So we have a motion on there, and all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. And the cycle for the future capital project?
So this is mostly a discussion of Chris's presentation and the understanding that, based on the data he showed us and then the data we have from our previous projects, our debt drop-off is 2032 is far out. So basically, the discussion is whether the board wants to move forward to try to get on that 5-year cycle to address some of our issues now, or if we want to wait. And I think he gave us a lot of good information about the utilization of a capital reserve. We do have $750,000 in our capital reserve right now. I don't believe there's any action. We're not deciding on a specific date or anything at this point. Again, we will have our architects here next month to talk about the prioritization of the issues that were discovered in the building condition survey. But just any discussion or questions related to timelines.
Is there any potential for growth on that 750 by the time we vote?
Hopefully, that would be the plan, is to potentially use some of our unassigned fund balance, move that out of unassigned, and then move that into the capital reserve.
I guess until we see some of those priority areas.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, that makes it hard.
Right.
It's a guessing game right now.
You don't know.
I mean, I am generally in favor of being on a more regular cadence. But
Oh, absolutely.
maybe
Makes
5 years.
sense.
Absolutely.
We know there's a bunch of things in these buildings.
Oh, absolutely.
Less.
Absolutely. I think that
Taking
we're all in
that down
agreement.
is-
We should be doing something every 5 years, and we should be, maintaining the buildings so that we don't have to tear them down. Okay, we don't have to have an action on that. Okay. And then we had in our packet, there was information about the bus purchases. I'm curious, are you addressing that?
Yep. So typically we replace 3 school buses every year, and then I believe every 4th year we do a 4th bus, a wheelchair bus. As you know, we have had a lot of discussion around the bus electrification. So right now, the current New York State mandate states that by 2027, all new buses must be zero-emission buses. By 2035, all fleet, the entire fleet must be converted to zero-emission buses. So right now, we are considering purchasing 4 gasoline buses instead of the regularly scheduled 3. We've had a lot of discussions with our bus dealer, and they have made it clear to us that, in addition to manufacturing delays, the proposition still does need to go before the voters for electric buses. So there is, and there have been instances across the state where an electric bus, zero-emission bus proposition could be voted down. So we do have an aging fleet. So the concern is if we were to run into that situation, we would want to make sure we have gasoline buses that are functional and safe for our students. So there's the difference between 4 buses versus 3.
And I think right now, too, they're still looking at that quite possibly that 2027 might become 2029 and 2037. So manufacturers aren't ready for us. So we have an action to purchase the 4 buses.
Yes, so we would still have to put a proposition
Right,
forward.
absolutely,
But
during the
yes.
vote. But to move ahead with what we're doing, it's not prepared right now.
What is the lifespan of a bus? If we buy it this year, how long till we want to replace it?
10?
Right now, it's about
10 years.
10. We do have some 12-year-old buses. So we continue to use all that we can out of the useful life of our buses. And it is, I guess it's also worth noting that the dealers will not even deliver an electric bus until you have the infrastructure in place to charge the electric bus. So that's another limiting factor. We would have to put the infrastructure in first. So it's a timeline that is a little bit out there at this point.
So we wouldn't be able to use electric buses this year. The question is really, do we go with a 4th gasoline bus?
Correct.
Yeah. What's the additional cost? I'm sorry.
It's each bus, the purchase price is about $179,000, but we do have, an 88 to 90% transportation aid ratio, so we take advantage of that.
What's the emission, and you may not be able to answer that, what's the emission on these gasoline buses?
I cannot answer that, but I can find out.
Find out and just send to us. It's interesting. My understanding is it's quite low. That's my understanding. But, what's that?
The newer ones probably because of, I
Yes.
assume they have the urea.
They're not 0, but they're not where they were a few years ago. Okay, so we're looking at making sure we have that 4th one, which, like you say, 10 years, that would bring us to, 34. Yeah, under the ceiling. So do we have a motion? Motion, Mrs. Graves, second, Mr. Broganero. Any discussion? What, can we get the discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Just a reminder to the board, we talked about our government's handbook that we're working on. That's a personal thing for the board, but please take a look at that. And I also sent you an email. There's a couple of bills on the governor's desk that we really, some advocacy that, you know, for her to sign or not sign, that would certainly help us. One was the tax cap, and another one was on some employee work. But please take a look at those and try to be an advocate for our district. Things could change for those. We don't need an executive session, so. Oh, and we also have a nice budget development timetable that Kara put out too, so. Mr. Peter.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn, second. Mrs. Graves, all in favor? Thank you very much. And then.